Welcome to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub. Today is the continuation mainly of the introduction into the new initiative, integrated initiative of the CPTM Smart Partners Networks to focus on leveraging the value of data through smart partnership, August 2018 to July 2020. The background of this is the initiation of the initiative through the think tanking that took place at the end of June 2018 at the CPTM Smart Partners Hub, think tanking which was led by governors of central bank who form a network for quite a number of years, the governors, around the issue of financial inclusion and adaptive flexibility. And there is a need for some background, and for that reason we all agreed that I will be first introducing what is the difference of your engagement into this integrated initiative from any other formal engagement or informal engagement in relation to the leveraging value of data. And that is the reason why last week I went also through a quite detailed emphasis on the signals that have been spotted in relation to the emerging digital landscape, specifically for the Smart Partners inclusion initiatives, governors, that is central banks, national standards organizations, and national statistics within the context of national visioning and securing the state. Now, first of all, daily and weekly, like today, Smart Partners Hub is updating, is giving access, is alerting, is passing on weak signals, as one of our colleagues in our group, Sheila Ronis, was mentioned it to me the other day, in relation to very major issues that are taking shape and which produce both positive and negative impacts, as well as direct primary but secondary or secondary impacts. So the Smart Partnership movement, the Smart Partners network of networks, the think tanking that they have ongoing, the Smart Partnership international dialogues, that framework that has been put in place, the national interactions, they benefit through individuals who are leading and picking up signals in relation to the impact, positive and negative, of the incredible developments that are taking place, irrespective of the continent, the country, developed or developing, in relation to the data, the value of data. Now, today again, we are bringing in a few selected signals, reading tips, and which are both derived from my own discussions, my own reading, my own ability to pick up specific, continuous, important signals, but also and above all is from my interaction with the smart partners, networkers, and who that they are in Australia, like John Blackshaw today, CPTM companion. He passed on a very important signal in relation to the Australian new bond, the kangaroo bond. Oliver Thew from the OFMIF in London, in the city, who participated in the Smart Partners think tanking at the end of June, he passed on some snippets, very important, about the crypto land or the crypto regulation in Africa as we speak, and so on and so on. So today you have a few signals on crypto, on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and also some final points which are very relevant in relation to institutional arrangements, such as finally an appointment of a science advisor in the Office of Science Technology Policy in the office of the President of the United States. There wasn't one in the last few years since the things have been changed. There is a very important collections of visions in relation to the way the context within which one is living nowadays, which is referred to as highly complex. And in other words, the complexity and the networks and the dynamics that are taking place are being articulated with the help of reflections on complexity and visions. So we include that, and three of them that we identified are in one or another associated with the CPTM Smart Partnership Movement. So that is a vision on complexity, and Nature is one of the latest which came today. It's a weekly best journal that everybody is following, which gives one the latest developments, very well peer-reviewed, for instance in machine learning. But very quickly, having done firstly an introduction of the new initiative on leveraging value of data, and then having gone through the main dimensions that will be dealt with by the way of the insights and referred to in the document that has been sent. I was referring to obviously this kind of visualization of the networks of the inclusion initiatives, and with the key networks and key sectors in a national context. over the years, in the last 5 years, what it emerged was that limitless opportunities through a smart partnership engagement can be aimed at. Now, limitless opportunities are in relation to and directly connected to the capability and the ability of the networks within a country to network with each other in relation to key insights, to key signals that are being spotted as relevant in the country, but also relevant outside the country. And the whole benefit or distinction of the program and the interactions lies actually on the smart partnership engagement and smart partnership vision, about which finally next week I will go more in depth as part of the initiation launch of the Limitless Opportunities, a living manifesto, the story so far. I simply wanted to go a little bit into the type of smart partnership mechanics that are being likely to evolve, which already exist, but you don't need to understand but the symbols and the metaphors. But I was discussing with Moses from Tanzania a little bit about how do we get governors and chief executive of standards and statistics and chief cabinet secretaries and so on to try to understand the value of it. And this is what we were discussing. We were saying if one takes that this is a country, that's a country, but let's say it's a country, and let's say it's Uganda. And currently, since the last 7 years or so, both the central bank, the governor himself and his key main staff, they've been involved both within Uganda but also in the network of inclusion, financial inclusion, that has been formed with other governors from other countries in the movement, in the smart partnership movement, and therefore this is a network. Now, this network, and I'll mention only the case of the governors because it is the same in the case of all the other inclusion initiatives in one country. This network, the CPTM Smart Partners Inclusion, Financial Inclusion Network, where the governor, Professor Mutabile, and Adam Mugume is the head of research in the bank, and many others in the bank are part of in the last so many years. They've been interacting through think tankings and through country interaction activities in Uganda itself over so many years, but also they've been interacting with or being made aware the National Bureau of Standards of the need for blockchain or DLT standards that are currently developed by ISO. Central banks and the governor particularly requires statistics. So the national statistics, the chief executive of the national statistics, they've been very much made aware about the impact that data and real-time statistics that are required by, for instance, the central bank, by the governor, monthly, if not daily, requires that the National Statistic Office looks at both the kind of methods, surveys usually and so on, used, which could be updated, upgraded, modernized, but also so that to provide real-time data, real-time statistics, together with probably data analytics inputs, and also maybe with data visualization, so that the data that is available in particular sectors, let's say industry or agriculture or education or health, they are as clearly identified and communicated, so that action is derived from it rather than simply to be noticed in the newspaper or in a report. So the central bank in Uganda, with the governor and his staff, they've been part and parcel of the broader financial inclusion along colleagues who have been mainly in the Commonwealth, but not only, those from Barbados, for instance, from Southern Africa, from Central Africa, from Malaysia, East Asia, as well as obviously from UK, Canada, etc. So this is what we talk about, the central bank's financial inclusion network, within which Uganda Bank, Central Bank, is part of. Just to pick up the standards, the National Bureau of Standards and the Chief Executive is part and parcel of the standards quality inclusion of the CPTM, and as such, for a number of years, different degrees of participation, they've been engaged or informed about developments that are taking place in Caribbean, in Southern Africa, in Malaysia, etc., in relation to the quality and standard inclusion. But above all, as far as standards are concerned, they've been always part and parcel of the International Standards Organization, the what is called DEVCO, the Developing Countries group in International Standard Organization in Geneva. And CPTM Quality Inclusion Network, they've been in the last few years alerting the International Standards Organizations and DEVCO in particularly about the strategic role, new strategic role that National Bureau of Standards have in relation to the central banks, in addition to their conventional role, the central banks, the statistics, the national visions, etc. So the reason why I go through this explanation is because if one is thinking about how and why and what is this leveraging the value of data through smart partnership framework, how and what is it? Is a network of networks and aiming to be a national framework, a constant national framework, open national framework in a country context, connected with the developments in the digital landscape, and particularly with the leveraging the value of data. Now, there isn't any way that one can leverage the value of data only being preoccupied within the central bank or financial sector. automatically one is connected with the standards, the digital and data technologies, including the statistics and many others. So the aim of the overall CPTM Smart Partners integrated initiative is to create capability for task forcing in addition to at the country level in relation to picking up or spotting signals that need to be introduced in their own institution and among the institutions, and raised at the national strategic level for securing the state. And there were, for instance, aspects which were obviously of a national context, which could be dealt only in a national context, like those raised when the governors met recently in relation to developing a legislation, a national legislation to be passed by the parliament in relation to the digital virtual currencies. Associated with that, various institutional frameworks. Those institutional frameworks, new ones, they behave differently. They relate to different type of technology which is not is evolving, is continuously evolving. So the legislation, that new legislations, innovative legislation which is required to leverage value of data, be it in relation to cryptocurrencies, be it in relation to new mandates for national statistics or standards vis-à-vis financial sectors. Those are being dealt with at a national level. Now, the beauty of the whole thing is that the mechanism of engagement is already there. It's called Smart Partnership National Context. And the national context, a country context, is part of the Smart Partnership movement, which has similar countries with similar objectives and similar individuals, leading executives who are preoccupied to share and to implement. This sort of arrangement that evolved over the last 25 years and is taking place already is going to be focused specifically on particular issues related to data and the value of data within a national context. But it could happen in any other context. And of course it is related to industry, to trade, to finance, to agriculture, to tourism, to energy, to health, to education. The costing of this interaction for 2 years, well, I mean, let's say that they will be like it was experienced up to now. There would be about 3 gatherings of think tankings at the CPTM Smart Partners Hub in London of key inclusion initiatives with key individuals leading those initiatives, simply to pick up signals, but they could be focused on specific insights as things happen. This is for 2 years. Well, let's say among all the countries that are involved in Smart Partnership movement, about 10 will emerge that they already have got, and there are already at least 10, there are probably about 15, where there are networks within countries in the specific institutions, and who will be requiring an interaction within the country itself with the background of the think tanking that picked up the main developments within the leveraging value of data. Let's say 10 countries. I hope there will be 15. And what will happen? There will be groups of leading networkers who will be invited in, let's say, in Uganda, and the central bank probably will be leading, together with the standards and statistics. They will be discussing very specific to themselves, but also together, the various issues related to data and their interaction in the national context at the strategic level. Well, that will provide learning both within country, but also sharing with the other networks in other countries. And there will be inputs from and access to the network of networks and the experts that and the expertise that we pick on the way. When I said we pick on the way, both these think tankings and the country activities, the country interactions, are being supported daily, weekly, as I did mention, through distributing knowledge, expertise, access to the specific situations that every network or leading inclusion individual is involved in. I suppose one would say, how do you cost all this? Well, the main costing is something which is unconventionally referred to by Smart Partnership Movement as cooperative resourcing. Now that's what it means is that over the years one established that a ratio of for every $1 that is spent cash finance, there are $10 equivalent in cooperative resource, in expertise, in time, in various ways which are not cash, they are not financial, which it is related to. So it's $1 for every $1 one can get a leverage of $10. Now, the expertise, the experience which is above the expertise of central bank governors, the most respected governors that there are, not only nationally, regionally, but also internationally. You can't put a price for it, but they are part of it. And one can learn every second from what they say, but they learn also from the others. And similarly with chief executive of standards and statistics, or ministers leading in prime minister's office, or well-known politicians with a lot of experience in a national and regional context. So the majority of all these things is taking place through what is called cooperative resourcing, cooperative costing. But there is a costing. This is a big difference between anything that one has seen up to now and is taking place since 1995 specifically, in a very big way. The actual core costs, the finance cost that is required, we were thinking, I was assisted by Moses. Moses is leading the emerging digital landscape together with colleagues from UK, from Malaysia, Botswana, etc. So I was discussing with him how much would it cost based on the past experience, recent one, how much a think tanking would cost at the core cost, finance in London, based on the fact that the CPTM Smart Partners Hub is being maintained and its main operational costs are being covered. So how much extra the think tanking would cost, a think tanking, and how much would cost a country activity to go, for instance, in Uganda. We arrived at the conclusion that it's quite even embarrassing to say that it may cost about $3.5 $3,500 per month in any country. Now, if you look at the huge investments that are being done in a completely different mode of operation, one is wondering how much that is wasted. How much out of that is leveraged really and built into the country? Every mode of operation, that is World Bank, or there are big companies, or aid agencies, every mode of operation helps. The only problem is that it's picking up the human resource, which is feeble in any country, particularly the one specialized. And the young ones, as we know, are probably going to be the most wanted ones, those who are going to specialize in data analytics, in data visualization, etc., etc. They are those that are going to be particularly the engine of this leveraging value of data. So they don't need to be exploited, and the leverage to them needs to be high. So the Smart Partnership and the CPTM offers that mode of leveraging your own resources, increasing your capability, and being connected and having access into what is happening and how things are progressing daily. Now, this is the name of the game anyway. Currently, speedy development, high complexity, but it can be dealt with. And the only way it can be dealt with is not through usual known conventional structures, resourcing, but through networks. Networks who practice smart partnership, networks, those who trust, and for that limitless opportunities are available. So that is for today, and next week it only remains to me to go a little bit into the limitless opportunity, the living manifesto, which covers and evolved all these many years, and it will go further. Have a good day.